From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the News 8 Daily 8 Podcast with Wish TV's Kylie Conway. A Wish TV News 8 update.
Hi, this is Kylie Conway, and this is your News 8 Daily for Thursday, February 17th. A very wet Thursday with some moderate to heavy rain all throughout the day. Isolated storms were even possible earlier today before a big temperature drop. Heavy snow is expected across northern Indiana. Rain will slowly transition over to a wintry mix there. By the nighttime hours, portions of central Indiana could also see some snow showers. The concern for flooding is really a big issue right now, too, a big focal point, as 1 to 3 inches of rain is possible by the end of today. Some leftover snow melt will also play a role in the flooding issues. And after today's mild start, again, the temperatures are going to fall, with the bottoming out in the 30s later today. And as of the time of this podcast, around 9 o'clock Thursday morning, we are dealing with a lot of power outages, closed roads, storm damage from the weather we're getting. Both AES and Duke Energy are dealing with scattered problems. Around 1:30 this morning, crews told us that strong wind knocked a dead branch into a power line, cutting power to about 50 homes and businesses for about 3 hours. That was near 50th and Meridian. Whenever rough weather hits, the city of Indianapolis wants you to report any traffic signal problems or tree debris to the Mayor's Action Center, stay away from down power lines and report them, and power outages to AES. Do not drive through water and pay attention to weather alerts. And we are working to find out more details of a shooting this morning that left 2 people wounded. Police say they found the victims in different places, one on Drexel Avenue near 21st Street, the other less than a mile away on Beausart Avenue near 19th. Police haven't said what condition the 2 are in or what led up to the shooting. A Senate committee voted to strip a controversial education bill of many of its provisions. House Bill 1134 targets how teachers approach matters of social justice and racism in class. Nearly the entire bill was changed or diluted. For instance, schools are now encouraged to form curriculum review committees, not required to do so. Parents would have access to an online learning management system. Posting a year's worth of entire curriculum, though, is not required. And schools must be impartial in teaching about historical events. There are many more provisions that were taken out or changed a little bit. Now, News 8 asked the bill's sponsor, Senator Linda Rogers, if the bill prevents teachers from addressing the present after effects of past events. And she was quick to say that they still haven't finished changing the bill and focusing on what could be improved, saying that could happen next week. More changes be passed, and then maybe a vote by the Senate committee that could send it to the full Senate. If the Senate then passed it next week, it could go back to the House due to the extensive revisions. And as state lawmakers debate the education changes, a forum this week aimed more fully explain critical race theory. The NAACP hosted the meeting with help from the American Constitution Society and the Black Law Students Association. IU law professor Kevin Brown spoke. He says critical race theory is not meant to make Americans feel bad about the country's history, but rather to examine institutions that are in place that can keep people of color from succeeding. He also says the way he teaches it is not meant for younger students. And state lawmakers are closer to approving the ban on transgender girls in girls' sports in school. The measure passed the Senate Education Committee yesterday. Supporters of the bill contend transgender girls have an unfair biological advantage over girls whose gender identity matches their birth certificate. Critics say it sends a message to trans students that they're not welcome. The bill now heads to the full Senate. It already passed the House. The CDC director says she wants to give people a break from mask wearing once transmission rates improve. Indiana's latest metric maps show that the surge at home is easing up, but health experts say that doesn't mean it's time to ditch the mask, and that goes for schools too. Dr. Anthony Fauci says whether we live with COVID-19 or fight it is not an either-or situation. He says it will take both to move forward. Now, only 3 states and Puerto Rico have yet to announce an end to mask mandates. Federal officials say ultimately it's up to local officials to consider the science and make the decisions. A bipartisan resolution condemning Russia's aggression and actions toward Ukraine could get a vote on the Senate floor as soon as today. The Biden administration says Russia has moved 7,000 more troops to the border, contradicting Moscow's earlier claims that it was pulling some troops back. There were some new satellite images you might have seen if you're watching Wish TV's Daybreak this morning from a private firm. They show Russian forces still massed in several regions close to Ukraine. The new troops add to President Biden's earlier estimate of 150,000 Russian soldiers already in the area. European leaders are meeting right now to discuss the situation. And one of Central Indiana's biggest animal shelters warns it is in a dire situation. Indianapolis Animal Care Services is moving to emergency intake status, meaning all surrendered animals will be at high risk for euthanasia. IACS says this is the answer to staffing shortages and a lack of room. The shelter encourages you to if you find a lost pet, to try to find its owner before calling the shelter. And the shelter suggests if you can't adopt, to foster an animal. Posting pictures on Indy's Lost Pet Alert is another good idea, and other social media sites like Nextdoor. Also, you can sign up to be a volunteer, make a donation, and take found pets to a vet or shelter to be checked for a microchip. City crews report that they have filled more than 20,000 potholes so far. DPW says workers have used 487 tons of cold mix asphalt. That's the temporary solution until it's warm enough to use hot mix. The city's urging you to report potholes. You can do so directly in the As Seen on Wish TV section on wishtv.com. That's where you'll find the pothole story and the link to report them. And a Central Indiana school is getting national attention for the message being sent to families. A letter to Sprunica Elementary parents appears to allow them to opt their children out of lessons about Black History Month. Diane Flavors has a grandson at the school. She says her grandson is high-functioning, autistic, and says teaching lessons on equity and differences is crucial, especially during Black History Month. She says opting out would hurt a child's education. Now, Brown County Superintendent Emily Tracy tells IT Mate that they're looking into the letter. The Brown County School District tells IT Mate that they do not allow students and parents to opt out of required curriculum. And it is Thursday. That means host of Inside Indiana Business, Gary Dick, joined us on Daybreak to talk Indiana business headlines. Here's the conversation.
Time to talk air travel, Hoosier hysteria, and one of racing's all-time greats, all as part of our partnership with Inside Indiana Business and the IBJ.
Sure, the host of the Inside Indiana Business is with us, Gary Dick, this morning. Okay, let's talk about the airport. Obviously, travel took a major hit during the pandemic. Yeah. How is the Indianapolis airport recovering?
Well, the good news, Kylie, this week is new numbers out show that Indianapolis International is recovering. Not only recovering better than peer airports. You know, of course, air traffic was decimated during the pandemic, especially the height of the pandemic. But new numbers just released this week indicate more than 7 million passengers through the airport. That's up 75% over 2021 over 2020. Interesting, the mix. Before the pandemic, it was about 55% business. Now it's about 82% leisure, so much more leisure travel. Air cargo, highest in the airport's history. So some very positive numbers. And again, the really neat thing to see is the fact that Indianapolis is outpacing Columbus and Pittsburgh. And I think Cincinnati as well. So some markets, peer markets.
Well, between the leader at the airport and maybe the greatest racer, you got Mario's all over the show.
Mario, right. Mario Rodriguez from the Indianapolis International Airport and Mario Andretti. Very excited about this as we'll be talking about one of the greatest drivers of all time, sitting down with a racing icon, Mario Andretti. Really excited to kick off season 2 of our Business and Beyond podcast with one of the greatest drivers in the history of motorsports.
The crowd beginning to pay its tribute to Andretti, the young man who came to this country at the age of 14 as an immigrant from Italy.
Well, he talked, there was taking the checkered flag, the only time he did it at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, 1969. He talks about immigrating from Italy to the United States, how he fell in love with racing, and his relationship, too, with the great A.J. Foyt.
He wasn't really too happy with me, but it was at the Hoosier 100 there, which was really the dirt track race of the season. You know, I beat him on the last lap, and in the victory lane, he said that his brake pedal broke. And then I said, well, I never touched the brakes. You know, so that kind of got him lit up a little bit.
Much more with racing legend Mario Andretti, including his take on the business of motorsports. That's coming up not only our podcast, but on the show this weekend as well. And guys, also on the show this week, in addition to the airport, the travel outlook we talked about, we'll get with Mario Rodriguez. We'll talk about a competition fueling the next generation of Indiana entrepreneurs, high schoolers pitching their business ideas, plus a look at Seymour's, the future of Seymour's historic Shields Gym. Former Congressman Barron Hill was one of the great players who played there. He talks about the fact that gym is on the endangered list. We'll go to Seymour. Plus, from our partners at the Indianapolis Business Journal, First Internet Bank venturing into banking as a service, a new business. The Indianapolis Community Crime Prevention Grant Program also in the spotlight this weekend. And Indiana restaurants looking to recoup federal monies from pandemic relief efforts that they haven't gotten to date. So a couple of stories in the IBJ.
The Pacers are back in the win column at last, but one of the brand new players is already gone. The Pacers beat the Washington Wizards last night, 113-108. Tyrese Halliburton continued his strong start with the team with 21 points and 14 assists. Tristan Thompson played great too with 17 points and 6 rebounds in just 21 minutes, but don't get too excited. The team waived him after the game in a deal that will land him in Chicago. This has been your News 8 Daily 8 for Wish TV. I'm Kylie Conway, online at wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast with Wish TV's Kylie Conway. A Wish TV News 8 update on demand. For even more, on demand and on the go. Connect with Wish TV on Facebook at wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening. And be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.